Hi guys, I just want to do a quick rehash on last night's love workshop. This video here will give you a deep insight of how to create more love in your life, regardless of whether you're in a relationship, want to leave it, or you're single. Everything we share here is totally practical and you can use it. But before we get into the practical and how you can use it, let's start with the theory. In the beginning, in the very beginning, there was light. Or you could say love. So in the beginning, there was light. Have you ever seen a torch or a lamp that shines darkness? You know, like a light you can turn on and it takes away the light? It doesn't exist. There is only light and absence of light. You might say love and an absence of love. Truth and not truth. Some people say good, some people say bad. They're judgments, right? And when you have good and bad judgments, you have problems. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. Some people believe they can eat shit, right, and work it off later. Some people believe in working hard now and having it easy later. But they're all judgments. And whenever we are blaming someone else, or we are saying it's their fault, or the reason I'm single, or the reason I'm thinking about leaving my relationship is them. You know, the moment we're blaming, or the moment we're actually saying bad, yeah, or hurt, or pain, we are having a judgment. And the thing is, judgments are like good or bad. So you can go around this world being an optimist, seeing the good side of everything. Great, I think that's a winning strategy. Only I'm not necessarily an optimist. I prefer looking on the optimistic side. But what I go for is more of a wholeness and a whole perspective. Just like there are some people out there looking at the worst side of life, being very pessimistic. But you see, an optimistic person and a pessimistic person is just like the good and bad, or the heads and the tails on a coin. Whereas I like to go and see both sides of the coin. When we take this approach into love or life, we can recognize that there are multiple perspectives, and seeing multiple perspectives gives us more and more of the real truth. Now, how many sides are there to a coin? Most people will say 2. But if you get a coin and actually look at a coin, you'll see there is the round edge. So there is infinite sides. Nothing to do with religion, but a lot of religions say the same thing. You know, they point to God. And if you get very fixated on the finger or on the Bible, you start disagreeing. You know, it says here, it says there, it says this, it says that, you know. But the thing is that these are mere descriptions of something they're trying to identify up there. But maybe God's down there. So a lot of people easily get caught looking at the fingers and the words rather than the greater concepts. And love is a concept. You know, we actually have love, which is really funny because love is like a noun. Love is a noun, you know. It's something that you can buy, you know, or something we can talk about. But love is actually a verb. It comes from loving, yeah. So loving is a process, but we freeze it into a noun, and then we have judgments on it, yeah. Or we have love as the verb, as the real thing, loving, and we have lots of judgments on it. So a lot of the times we're judging it on one side rather than taking the whole screenshot. So I want you to consider now, you know, how many times you've been right and someone else has been wrong. How often have you been in a variety of relationships and they've been at fault or they've done something silly? Now, if as soon as you think they've done something silly or they're wrong, you're making a judgment. You're taking a side of the coin. Now, remember, in the beginning, there was light. There was light, there was love. There is no darkness torch. There's only the absence of light. And what causes the absence of light? Something blocking, right? So when something blocks, the light doesn't come through, right? So think about a child or a baby. Little child's there, right? What's a typical state of a baby? Maybe wow, 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 wow. You know, change the nappy, put some food in, get some milk or something, and then the baby's, yeah, happy. A baby's natural state, provided it's safe, is happy. Baby's looking around, new things, everything's new, shining, bright, oh, noisy, you know. Natural state of the baby is happy, joyful. But things happen, nappy, hunger, yeah. Baby also doesn't have a lot of separation. See, a baby doesn't get hungry. A baby is hunger. It's that raw hunger, yeah. So anyway, as a baby gets older, we start to train them and teach them and block them. So when it comes to love, natural state joy, natural state love, but there's blocks. So when it comes to love, how much effort are we putting into getting love? How much effort do we put into getting love? Making ourselves better, making ourselves stronger, making ourselves smarter, perhaps accumulating more status or trying to do a better job pleasing someone. How much effort do we put into getting love? And how much effort do we put into removing the blocks? I'd like for you to write that number down. Figure out, is it 50% looking for love, creating love, working on yourself for love, or 50% removing blocks? Removing blocks could be meditation, seeing a therapist, working on ourselves, but working on ourselves, not working on making them better. How much of your time do you spend removing the blocks, and how much do you spend trying to get love? Now, if you spend a lot of time trying to get love, that's okay, that's great. The only thing is that you're constantly going to be trying to get it. When we spend more time removing the blocks, imagine removing all the blocks, you're going to find love every day when the blocks are gone. So I'd like to emphasize removing the blocks, removing the obstacles. You want to get more love in your life? Work on clearing out all the baggage from the past. Now, let's say there is some baggage from the past, someone that done the wrong thing by you. Great. If in your past, now I tend to see my past, and my past is behind me. When I think about a person in the past, an ex or something, if I think about the ex and there is emotion which does not serve me, you know, like a bit of anger, a bit of frustration, that is a block. Okay? If we think about past relationships and we get down or angry, or our energy comes down, or we get any twitch or any kind of sensation in our body, that's signs of blocks. Blocks, traumas, wounds, all that kind of stuff, yeah? And I've got great news for you. If, probably when, you can look back and find the wounds, find all the traumas, find all those painful memories. Each one of those painful memories, right? Each one of those painful memories is like us. Got a nice, beautiful silver coin here. Each one of those painful memories is like us seeing one side of the coin and probably getting stuck there. So all we got to do with the painful memories, well, you might want to see a therapist or a coach, but what the coach and the therapist will often do with the memory is they will have you seeing different perspectives. And as you see different perspectives of the situation, the problem, the person, once you take in enough perspectives, reviewed it from different sides, generally the negative emotion is released. Quite simple. The reason the emotion is there is because we're holding or suppressing an emotion, suppressing a memory, because we're stuck on one side, because we haven't learned. We haven't learned. Once we learn multiple sides, we can release the emotion and keep the positive learning. Yep. Therapy, that's what typically we do with therapy, right? So now all these events in our past can actually become stepping stones. Yeah. For a lot of people, their past is knives and daggers, yeah, and bitterness and prickles. So their past is a line of prickles, and in the future, they're like, oh, I'm struggling in relationships. How you been in your past? Oh, I was always struggling, yeah. So if we can change the past, which we can, by looking at multiple sides of the coin, by doing, therapy, NLP, EQ coaching stuff. We look at the past and suddenly all those past traumas start to become steps. And imagine if behind you, you had steps. If you had a pile of steps behind you from all those relationships that didn't work, if you to actually visualize that, like we did last night, when you visualize that, you find yourself actually up higher. Because to visualize steps puts you up higher. So suddenly all your past becomes steps, making you a much better person for relationships, getting love. Okay. So if you become a person, and you can become a person who has learned a lot from relationships, who's learned a lot from stuffing them up, perhaps being divorced, separated. Perhaps if you had abusive relationships in the past, and you can be like, yeah, I learned a lot from that. Perhaps you had a partner cheated. You can be like, I learned a lot from that. And have this kind of response of like, yeah, I learned from that. You're going to be having steps. If you're like, oh, yeah. Actually, I know my first 7-year relationship, I was overseas and kind of cheated on me. I was away a lot. We weren't meant to be. We're actually rather young. I can look at what happened and I actually have a bit of empathy and sympathy for my ex. I was away for so long. When I saw her side, I was away a lot. I was actually deployed, on a military exercise. I don't have angerness and bitterness, and that was a big stepping stone. So when you get to a point where all the past relationships are stepping stones, you're up to a much better place to start getting love now from others and start loving yourself more now. Because if you don't love yourself, you will attract someone who also doesn't love themselves. And that moves us into the next part, which is attraction. We attract like magnets. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you consciously say. The attraction comes from the unconscious. Scientifically, you might call it the reticular activation system, or you might say frequency. It takes energy to know energy, or like attracts like. People like people that are like them. So chances are, if whatever results you're getting is a result of your program. Whatever results you're getting in life now is a result of your programming. Yeah. So if you're attracting low quality relationships, you've got low quality programming. If you're attracting high quality relationships, but they keep cheating on you, that's part of your program. Yeah. If you're single, that's part of your programming. Whatever you're getting is a result of your programming. However, that's a programming from your past. And that programming may not be good enough for the future you want to create. A lot of people, such as myself, my parents were together and they had me my sister and I, 70s and 80s. At that time, were my parents very, very conscious and enlightened? No. Were my parents alcoholics and drug addicts? No. No, probably around the middle somewhere. Come from a kind of average-like family. So I grew up seeing an average kind of family. Now, a lot of families back in the 70s, 80s, further back, earlier, a lot of families, a lot of mums and dads stay together, but they're not necessarily that conscious. Yeah. A lot of parents stay together for their kids because of convenience, or they're afraid of separating. A lot of parents are together because of fear. Yeah, fear of being apart. So we as children grow up in a relationship where mum and dad may be together because of fear, or mum and dad may be together because of money. Mum and dad may be together for their survival, and mum and dad are the models. So the models we grew up with were living on this kind, perhaps somewhere in here. Maybe your parents were a good friend of mine, a mother was a drug addict, had a handful of friends and people like this. Their parents were addicts, and they grew up and their parents were on this level. Yeah, and they wonder and complain about not being able to attract a high quality love. Well, their programming is on this kind of low level. Now, if we have programming that are getting us this kind of level, wherever it is, and we have expectations of living, this wonderful, beautiful life, we're going to have a mismatch. Our programming is going to create us results on this level, but we also have expectations of being on that level. That's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for unhappiness. Now, if our blueprint or our mental programming is for this level, and our expectations and all we want in life is this level, okay. Programming equals the results we're getting. If that's the results we want, okay. But if we want to have above average results, we've got to change our programming to match that, or we're going to be unhappy. Or we're going to bring back our desires and be unhappy. We want something up here or expect something up here, and our programming is here. Recipe for disaster. That's why we've got to increase our programming, reprogram our mind and get our mind up to that level that we want to achieve. Me, constantly, I hope for the rest of my life, I will always strive for slightly higher. Now my level of consciousness, wherever it is, I'm aiming for a little above it. As I step up in consciousness, I keep raising my expectations a little bit. That way I can be driven, but I can also pause, stop, breathe, and be present. The bigger the gap, the bigger the pain. But perhaps desire as well. Okay, now there is a lot of sayings that if you grew up with this kind of programming, you're going to end up like your parents, or like your mom, like your dad, or like the opposite. True. Generally end up like them or the opposite. A lot of people out there, they end up like trying to find a new dad or a new mom, trying to find someone to take care of them. All a result of bad programming. Good thing is you can remove that program. A lot of you guys will be coaches or in the coaching, NLP field, EQ field. So it's all about what? Removing the blocks. Turning them into stepping stones. That's the primary thing here. If we take all the past and turn them into stepping stones, we've effectively reprogrammed our brain. And by reprogramming our brain, we're naturally going to find a lot more love and attraction in our life. Okay, let's just check in for a second. In last night's session, we spoke about 7 different types of love from Greek philosophy. And we went through all 7 types of love. For example, eros or erotica, passionate love. And what we did with all these different types of love, we got into groups and we spoke about it. What you can do is you can look at the 7 types of love. We'll share them down below. And what you can do is you can simply give yourself a score from 1 to 10, how much you're feeling. 10 means you're really feeling this love on a regular basis. 1 meaning not at all. Give yourself a score, and at the end of the session, you can give yourself another score. So look at the 7 types of love. Give yourself a score from 1 to 10, how much you're feeling it. Then define that love. Define what it means to you. 7 types of love. For some people, they'll focus more on agape, which is like a selfless, universal love. So score that on 1 to 10. Yeah. And now, what does universal love mean to you? You get to choose your own definition. So choose a definition that works for you and feels good. If you think about universal love, or there's like a flirtatious love, ludus love. If you think about ludus love and you're like, ew, there's an example, there's something to work on there. If you go through any of these love types and you get a response, a negative response, that's something you can work on. Yeah. Perhaps someone in your life did a lot of that. And if you're having a negative response to any of those types of love, work on it. So improve your definition, clean up. You can think about an example of each, or perhaps a role model for each. And then for each of these types of love, we have our rules for it. So each type of love has rules for it. These rules can be considered beliefs. So let's take this universal love. Universal love, there's a definition for it, and you can make your own definition. Definition is a rule, a belief. Okay? Now, what has to happen for you to feel that love? There's a set of rules in there. And by writing this out, it gives you the opportunity to change it, because this is deeply unconscious. So just by writing it out, you can actually change your beliefs just by writing it out, because you're digging up the unconscious and you're making it conscious, you're changing it, and then bring it back in, as easy as that. Okay, so definition, what has to happen before, brings up your rules on what needs to happen for you to feel that. Do you want to be strict with your rules or flexible? I'd like to suggest be flexible with your rules. Make it easy to get that love, because when you get that love, you can attract more of it. So set up your definition and what has to happen before to be flexible and supportive. Next, examples. Yeah, like I feel universal love whenever I look into a flower. Some people will have rules like this. I feel universal love when the sky's clear, and when I'm out in nature, and when I'm fully rested and feeling good, and I smell, the flowers of nature, and I feel connected. Sound okay? It's actually that's actually a really strict rule set. Yeah. You see, if you have rules that are like clear skies, and I'm in nature, and I can smell it, and I feel connected, and I feel this. If we have this and rule set, we have to have all of that in order to feel it. That's not so good. You might want to consider changing that. A lot of people have the and examples. Example like smell the flowers and they smell good, and I feel connected, and I feel this, and I feel that. That makes it really hard to feel the love. Yeah. Now, if we have our examples like I see the clear skies, or I'm in nature, or I feel connected, or I see a flower blossoming, or I see baby chickens, or this. The or rules will allow us to feel love a lot more. If you go through the 7 types of Greek love, updating the definition, what has to happen before, and examples with or, you will find yourself feeling that love a lot more. Okay. Once you go through that rule set, if you like to, you could simply check again from 1 to 10, how much are you feeling? Or how confident are you in achieving that? Just by writing that down with the scores, you now have something quantifiable, meaning you can do it again in a month's time, or you can measure your progress from the start of the activity till the end. Now, once you are feeling more love, and remember, with the Greeks, there's 7 different types of love. So once you are feeling more love, any type of love on any level, Once you start feeling more love, you're going to be attracting more love. So get your love inside really high with the roadblocks from the past, and you'll be walking out of here like a fully lovable human being, not someone that needs love, not someone that needs fixing, not someone that needs repairing, not someone that needs other people to make them happy. You'll be the kind of person that's so full with love that you can walk down the street and you can just give love to the street, give love to the flowers, give love to the person walking by. Yeah? If you see a potential partner and they see you full of love, giving love, whew, I want some of that. People have a tendency to want to help people. So if you are walking down the street like needing love, you know, like being on the side of the road with a flat tire, yeah, maybe someone will come and help you fix the tire. But we don't want to be going through this world like needing love, needing external validation. Get our steps all set up, work on ourselves, get our feeling of love high, and we'll walk around so high and so full of love. It'll just attract love, but the thing is, you won't need it. Now, if a boy and girl gets together and they are full of love and they've worked on themselves, you've got a relationship that's boom up here, an enlightened relationship. I've got a test, by the way. You see it on my website, Enlightened Relationship Tests, a whole series of beliefs. And you can score yourself on the beliefs. So if boy and girl, whatever, if they end up on a real high level with themselves and attract another high level of themselves, then you end up with couples that are up on a high level of consciousness, and the children they bring into the world will be princes, queens, little kings, little princesses, amazing people. If you get people on a lower consciousness level and they get together because they need each other, you get codependency. Do you want to be in a codependent relationship or an enlightened relationship? That's what I do. I help people get to enlightened relationships, and we do our NLP and coach training for that, because we help the individual get up there. If you're in a relationship, perhaps one's codependent and one's not real. You're both codependent. Sorry. Both work. But if one person in the relationship steps up with coaching or steps up with NLP and stuff, that will naturally drag the other person up, or you'll end up leaving them and finding someone better. Okay, jets are flying. Have a beautiful day. I hope you enjoyed that summary, and I'll see you at one of our next workshops. Stay true to yourself and find your love.
Boom! You made it here! Good on you. Make sure you click the subscribe button below and check out the playlist at the end. If you'd like to come along to our Sunday sessions where we host a live free Q&A for our students and members, you're welcome. I'll see you there.